We have reached the part of the podcast where we're going to talk NFL betting. Who better to come on than David, aka Better DP21 on Twitter and Instagram. David, how you doing today, my man?
Good, man. Been a long Friday. I'm very much looking forward to the weekend and cashing some more tickets together. 2-0 last weekend on those plays.
Yeah, you were 2-0. I was 1-1. We are now 34, 21, and 3 on the podcast, giving out NFL bets. Unfortunately, we only have 3 games left.
I know. It's sad. It's sad.
So we're going to have to look to finish off on a positive note with it getting dwindling down more. There may be a week where we just have only first half plays, maybe 2 sides, player props, whatever. Our normal norm is going to be changed a little bit. And I have to, I'm going to tout myself. This is going to be the stress-free betting weekend for me because I'm sitting on the Eagles 30-1 to win it all, the 49ers 14-1 to win the NFC, the Chiefs 12-1 to win it all, and the Bengals 11-1 to win the AFC. I'm making money somehow.
No matter what.
No matter what, I am making money. So it's stress-free for me.
That's good. That's good.
So,
I like to live dangerously though.
Well, don't get me wrong. I bet the Eagles. I gave that out earlier in the week on my live stream. And actually, one of the sides you're going to give out, I've locked in too.
Great.
So let's jump right into it. We're going to, like I said, I have 2 player props. David has a halftime bet and a full game side. I'll let David start us off.
All right, very good. So getting started with the first half, I'm center focused on one game. It's Bengals and the Chiefs. So with this game here, I'm looking at the first half. I'm looking at the over 23.5 in the first half. My model has this at average of like 30 points in the first half, giving us a nice 6.5 point margin over the book. Respectively, each of these teams' passing defenses are middle of the pack, and the Russian defense are very much the same. So, but also respectively, both have like a very top 5 rushing offense and a top 10 passing offense. So I really like this one to be aired out a little bit more in the first half. I think both these teams are going to come out pretty strong and firing. I think we were going to see a lot more in the air than the run, just given the defensive rankings compared to their passing defense. And, I really like the edge that we have here in terms of the total. So that's where I'm going to put my money for the first half. Not trying to overthink it, just pretty straightforward analytics to me. Let's make it make sense and get over that 23.5 for the first half for the game.
I like it. I think that game is a potential shootout. Earlier in the podcast, Nick, who does the fantasy stuff, came on and he was targeting that game a lot because of the shootout potential in it compared to the earlier game. My first bet, I'm staying in that game. I'm taking Mr. Jones, Chris Jones, over half a sack. The Chiefs, and when I read this, it kind of blew my mind. They're second in the league in sacks.
Wow.
So they're getting to the quarterback. I know their defense has issues in the secondary and stopping the run, but they're able to get to the quarterback. I know Williams was at practice. Kapkus was at practice. They didn't participate, but they were there. Don't know what's going on with them, but Jones is a bad mofo. They're going to move him all the way across the line, right side, left side. He had 2 sacks last time they played. He has 15.5 for the year. I think he's going to be able to get to the quarterback. I think he's going to be able to get to Burrow and take advantage of these injuries that the Bengals have on the offensive line. So I like Chris Jones over half a sack. I was able to find this line at minus 122. However, I would not pay more than minus 125. So it's kind of at that price check for me. So minus 125 or better, Chris Jones over half a sack.
That's good, especially for the full game. you definitely got to imagine that they're going to try to look to exploit as many matchups as you can, on either the right or left side, just kind of depending. So whichever one I'm sure he's got an advantage over, I'm sure he's going to be leaning in that direction and probably find that sack. I mean, as you just mentioned, they're gonna just exploit each side of it, and if they're the top two in sacks, I
That really
mean,
stuck out.
that just surprises me.
Like they're able to get, he had 15 and a half for the year. They're able to get the quarterback. I, I heard someone make this point. Generally speaking, his his thing was when a team has an issue, it's usually not the first game where it shows up. It's the second game where it kind of shows up a little bit. This could be the game where those O-line issues show up. You're able to get the sack. And also, it snowed. I was talking to you off camera about someone I know who's an offensive line coach. His point was in a snowy game, it's hard for the defense to get to the quarterback and it can band aid some of the offensive line issues. So I think that helped the Bengals last week as well.
Oh
You're
yeah,
not going to have snowy, icy conditions. So I think that plays into Chris Jones being able to get home,
yep.
at, get a sack to cash this ticket. Second bet, what are you looking at, my friend?
Second bet, full game side. I am sticking with the same game. I like the Bengals Chiefs game. I like Chiefs -1.5. I had this much earlier in the week. I think at like a -1 line for the game, and so the line's clearly moving in my direction, or at least I got ahead of it from a value perspective. But yeah, same kind of analysis here, right? Like, I just look at the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. I understand the track record, but I do not try to go on those trends of, oh, the Chiefs haven't beaten the Bengals in the last three meetings or whatever it's been. I really like where they're rolling right now with their offense. I think I think they just look like the more balanced team. I know the Bengals look really strong against my Bills. Don't get me wrong. Like I for me right now, the kryptonite of the Bills is these two teams trying to get out of the AFC always. So, I think they're very evenly matched. I really like it, but I really like the Chiefs at home. I try not to put a lot of pressure on home away at this point of the season, of course, as most people have heard me say. But I really do think the offensive prowess of the Chiefs is actually just going to kind of show up a little bit more. I do see this being a shootout. It could come down to the last one, but my numbers, my model average has this as Chiefs -7. So, I'm looking at this as like a full touchdown advantage for the Chiefs going in against that kind of book line right now. Field goal would beat that line, anything like that. Safety. I mean, you just anything at with a 1.5 mark right now is a really good value that I just find from a numbers perspective to support the Chiefs, and that's where I'm going to put my money for the side.
And it makes you think this team was just what, 6.5 point underdogs to the Bills?
Yes.
If Mahomes was 100% and they had those offensive line issues, where would this line be? I think this is a little bit of an overreaction to the
I do
Mahomes.
too. I do too. Um, and Chad Henne proved he's just as capable to step in that offense last week. I mean, they didn't. They had no stopping them. They had no quit. Like, as much as I agree, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. From the injury bug perspective, for the line, of the Bengals, for Mahomes is, where he's gonna. I mean, he's going to play.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, public perception right now. Everybody's probably just looking at the games from last week, seeing Mahomes, had an injury, seeing what the Bengals did to my Bills, and I think they're just really looking at it from the perspective of that and trying not to call Cincinnati such a huge dog at this point. But
Yeah.
and nobody should be at this point, right? I mean, we're at the critical point where these lines
Yeah.
are so tight that everybody's got a shot.
And that's another thing. It's almost when you kind of explain it the way you just did, a buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
And then when you think about it, like I said before, I think this is the game where we see those O-line issues kind of hurt the
Sensei.
Bengals
Yeah.
with what they're trying to do. My next bet, I'm going to another player prop. I gave out the Eagles. I'm on the Eagles for the game against the 49ers. Do you like the Eagles in that game as well? Or are you leaning toward the 49ers?
I would lean toward the 49ers money line if I had to pick. My line has this more of a -1 in favor of the Eagles. So, I mean, you get a 1.5 advantage, with the 2.5 where it is right now. But this game isn't going to be decided by, a point. This is going to be like a field goal,
Yep.
maybe a little bit more. But either way, I give the value to the dog in that game. I really love the defense of the 49ers. I just think it just stands up really well against the Eagles. And I think they're going to have a true test in front of them. Like I don't know if Purdy's magic is going to sustain against the Eagles. Granted, just how much offensive, don't get me wrong, Eagles have a great defense too. I've been saying it all year. Like, the only hole that they ever really showed a gap in was, I think, their rushing defense, which obviously, if that's the case, then, that McCaffrey is going to be a really big contributor.
But here's the thing, though. It's when you look at the rushing defense with Jordan Davis there, and then with
Mm-hmm.
not Jordan Davis there, it's night and day.
Oh,
And
true.
that brings me to my
Absolutely.
play. I did CMC under 99.5 total receiving, total rushing yards. Thought
That's
process
awesome.
is Eagles with Sue, Quinn, Joseph, and Davis, they're really good against the run. And they're going to be able to shut down the opposing running back. Look what they did to Saquon Barkley last week. On top of that, McCaffrey, we saw when he first got there his touches be in the 20s. They've been slowly dwindling. And now it's basically like a third him, third Mitchell, third Debo in the backfield.
Oh, yeah.
And the last part of that game on Sunday, CMC was on the sideline. He had that calf thing on,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Eli Mitchell that closed the game. So I really think we're going to see more Mitchell. We're going to see more Debo, and it's not going to be a CMC game. And with how good the Eagles are defensively, I think he's going to struggle a little bit in the passing game. A lot of the over the middle stuff is open up. So I don't really think we're going to see that much of CMC. So I like under 99.5. I'm looking at right now on BetStamp. I'm starting to see some shops are dropping it vastly. I would not go under though. 96 would probably be anything. If it get dripped down to 95.5, I wouldn't do it. 96.5, I would do it. I got it at 99.5.
That's awesome. And I need to correct myself, actually. The whole of the defense of the Eagles is actually their passing side. It's not their running side. So from a rushing perspective, I agree. He'll definitely be held under. And, but they just use him so much. Like you just mentioned, him, Debo, they looked at Kittle, they use him as an extension of the passing game in so many ways. But I do agree that, they're gonna. I think Purdy really keys in more on Kittle than anybody else since he's been back there, and he revived him in the second half of this year. So, yeah, I could definitely see just this one being just a little bit under where he want to be, just due to the Eagles' defense. I mean, totally agree. I think it's going to be a big defensive game, actually. I know Vegas. And this is not any kind of advocated play. I'm just saying that if anything was trending to support your under decision, it's the fact of where both these defenses are ranking in the top 5, even in the top 3, when it comes to rushing defense, and and that's usually what determines a lot of the Vegas totals as well. So I'd be looking at the under 46.5 as well in the game.
And you mentioned the Purdy magic. Let's just catch a beat. He threw that ball in front of Kittle. Kittle hit it toward himself, hit himself in the face.
Yeah.
And then they caught it. And then he caught it. And I'm just like, wow. I just sat back there and I was like, some days you just got to be like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And then they call that PI on
Yeah.
Kittle, where Kittle he kind of flopped.
Yeah.
He flopped because later on, the next series they got the ball, he just completely boat raced that guy, just shoved him down to the ground. It was kind of funny. But the thing with the Cowboys, in my eyes, is Dak. He drove him down at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
In field goal range, bad costly turnover. 49ers go down. They kick the field goal. That's 6 points right there. The missed extra point. That's the game. And when you have two teams that are two good defensive teams like the Cowboys and the 49ers are, Eagles are in that boat too. It wouldn't surprise me if this game's a low scoring game as well. So that's another reason why I like this under.
Yep. I like it. I mean, I definitely support that player prop for sure. No doubt about it. Like I said, I couldn't remember which side it was. The Eagles were more weaker on is their passing defense out of everything.
Especially in the slot. I also bet Jawan Jennings over 19 and a half yards receiving. That's a free play for everybody. Little bonus grab. Bonus grab.
We keep just spitballing these ideas, and then more plays come if you listen to us.
little bonus grab right there. But it's been a fun season, David. You know, I appreciate ending your work week, coming out, talking little shop, little football. But I went on this rant earlier in the podcast, and you're better. You've been in the game for a while. I gave my 2 cents on the matter. I'd love to hear your 2 cents on the matter before I let you go. Trending right now on Twitter is Void Luca. I guess he played 3 minutes last night, and everyone's bitching and whining, saying they wanted their bets voided. I'm a little older. I look at it, hey, he played in the game. It's the rules of the book. You lost your bet. Tough shit. Move on.
Yeah, I have the same mentality. I mean, if a player plays, absolutely, that's how you honor the bet. Like, they participated in the game to some threshold, of time that the book deems acceptable to accept bets, not refund anybody. And that just is what it is. I mean, you run into that. I mean, you'll find it in a whole bunch of games. I mean, so many different scenarios are going through my head of just, when I've tried to advocate to a book of whether or not they should honor or, refund a bet based on a situational play. And some of them surprise me. Some of them just, I'm like, well, that's just the way it goes. We're gambling, like we have to accept the risk of the outcome.
I agree 100%. And I feel like the books, and don't get me wrong, like the offshore books, you do that, they hang up on you.
Yeah.
It's the DraftKings, the FanDuels, those guys that are doing this. Agree with you 100%. I'd like to thank you for coming on, and I look forward to talking in the Super Bowl with you next time we talk, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the time.